Wolfpack, what's going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street, rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves. Here with your Week 7 Waiver Wire and FAAB show, as we are every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Monday through Thursday, you can find us live streaming at 7 p.m. Eastern Time all through the week. And then, of course, on Sunday, we get your sit starts. So come on in, hit that bell if you want to make sure you're live with us. Sub, of course, to get these shows and get your questions all answered live. Thanks again, Wolfpack, for being here, though. Super pumped. Even though this is one of the grosser, we kind of seem to be alternating weeks of like a really solid week. I mean, last week we had Tony, Darrell Williams, Booker, just a loaded waiver wire cast from top to bottom. This week is not the case. We do have a few options that I'm very intrigued by. And again, last week we had like Alex Collins and some other guys down at 13 and 14 who ended up being studs. So there are still some names down below at the bottom of the list that could end up being intriguing, but it is not the type of waiver wire you were hoping for when we hit bye week hell with the Bills, the Cowboys, the Chargers, and Vikings, four of the better offenses in the league, all on bye. But there's some reinforcements, so let's talk about them. First, you got to go check for Sterling Shepard. He's above that 50% threshold, but only by 2%. So he's out there in 48% of leagues right now. I would be dropping 30, maybe $40, especially if I need a wide receiver right now to go get Shepard. Once again, 10 catches. The target share has been insane across his last 5 healthy games this year, and then dating back to last year. In fact, it goes all the way back to 7 games. He's seen 10 plus targets in all but one of them, 9 plus catches in 5 of 7. I mean, the guy is a slot maven, killing it. Another 10 catches, 76 yards. So standard leagues, it's not quite as valuable, but still fantastic stuff here from Sterling Shepard. 14 targets with Tony going down. And Tony, they're saying it is a more serious than a simple sprain type of situation. He was immediately ruled out. So you got to imagine this could linger, and Shepard will just be right back into that de facto number 1 role. If and when Tony returns, I mean, we did see on that first drive, he was targeted on 3 of the 5 dropbacks. He was an alpha. He was getting open at will. I still love Tony as a player. I think he is the number 1 guy here if and when he's healthy, but we just don't know what the seriousness is of that injury. So you got to go check for Sterling Shepard first and foremost. Now getting into guys that are under 50% rostered in Yahoo leagues. And again, as always, get your questions on in. We'll back thumbs up to help us get out to more people. Share it on out. Would mean the world. But we'll answer everything as we get to the end. Be about 20 minutes or so as we get through these players. JD McKissic, 42% rostered right now. I would be spending 18 to, depending on your need, 25%. And some of you guys might even be like, I need the running back so desperately. I'm throwing 30 in there. And I can't blame you at this point. Gibson was forced out of action due to this flare-up with his shin, in and out on the bike. Didn't do anything special when he was in there, 44 yards and a fumble, just a disgusting day. Meanwhile, we saw McKissic, 61% snap share with Gibson going in and out. He saw 16 touches, 8 carries, 8 catches, ultimately racking up over 100 yards, 110 yards on those 16 touches. This is the situation. Oh, he's game script dependent, right? Well, they're giving up the most points in the league right now. The Washington football team is. So this is going to continue to be the script, and the touches will only be higher should Gibson miss time. Now, granted, we'll talk, and there's going to be a couple of these in a row about like dual backfields with injuries going on. If Gibson misses time, I do imagine Jarret Patterson, a rookie over here, only 1% rostered and worth about 2 to 3% of your FAAB, in my opinion. He could end up becoming one of the early down ball carriers here for the Washington football team. And he was a darling this preseason, if you don't remember. He was dominating, 16 carries, 71 yards, and a score, 25 yards through the air coming against the Bengals. Then he also had 70 yards on 14 touches against the Pats. He was getting it done in the preseason. A guy that is intriguing, a big body, churns after contact, but can also catch. Something to pay attention to. They do get Green Bay at bottom 5 in rush DVOA. We just saw them get destroyed by Khalil Herbert. I think there's a lot of similarities between Patterson's profile and Herbert coming into last week. Just a guy to stash, see what happens with Gibson, see how this all shakes out. But McKissic, either way, is going to be heavily involved because they're facing the Packers. They're going to need their points. The Packers will certainly destroy this team through the air, as every team has done all year. And that means you'll get a ton of JD McKissic action, my number 1 back, and it's not really close. Now, in terms of a 1-week stopgap plug-in fill-in, Dearness Johnson's about as good as it gets, only 3% rostered, so almost a lock to be out there for you. If you're desperate for a running back fill-in this week, I'd say you got to spend 15, maybe even 20% of your FAAB. And we'll also talk about Demetric Felton, my number 9 pickup of the week, 6 to 8% FAAB, in my opinion. Let's talk about the Browns, though. Their ground pie has been astronomical yet again after leading the league in all meaningful categories last year. They're first in attempts, 194, first in rush yards, 10,000. Yeah, imagine that. 1,011 yards. Yards per carry, 5.2, and TDs, 12. Leading the league in every single meaningful category. That averages out to 32 attempts a game, 168 yards per game, and 2 TDs per game. Now, yes, of course, Chubb and Hunt are a big part of those huge totals. They're the best 2 backs and a duo backfield in the entire league. But so much of the success is also due to the number 1 line in the league, the best zone blocking scheme you could ask for, and just a shit ton of volume in this Brown scheme. With Baker Mayfield banged up, I imagine they're going to continue to hammer the run relentlessly against Denver. Now, that's a tough matchup. You're 28th in terms of points allowed, not a great spot. We also have word their tackles could be out, both of them. That would not help either one's case. But with Kareem Hunt on the IR, carted off, going to be a while, and Nick Chubb already ruled out, you at least know about 30 touches are out there for grabs to be distributed, and it's going to go to these 2 guys. Dearness would be my favorite to be the first man up. He's the only other back with a carry on this team so far this season. And last year, he actually looked pretty damn solid when he got action. 166 rushing yards on 33 carries. That's over 5 yards a pop. People rule out the fact that this guy's actually a pretty decent receiver, too. 10 catches on 12 targets for 92 yards. But in college, he led USF for all-purpose yards, running back reception 73, and running back receiving yards 909. So the guy can get it done, Dearness Johnson, in all facets of the game. That all being said, the team did draft Demetric Felton, a wide receiver running back convert, who also had a dynamite college performance with leading the Pac-12 in all-purpose yards, 165.8 per game. Under Chip Kelly, was converted to that running back dual threat guy. And lackluster speed for both of these guys. Not crazy athletic profiles, but both intriguing guys that can get it done in both facets that, again, will benefit from the scheme. Give me Johnson first. Going to be the goal line guy, first man up there. But Felton, he might have a longer tail of usability, given that Chubb's going to come right back, take that Johnson role, whereas Felton might slide in as that Kareem Hunt rest of season, or not rest of season until Hunt is back at least. Could be Johnson again, where he's a capable receiver. My money would be on Felton. They've also talked about working in the slot a bit more. Both of these guys, well worth ads. You're going to have to spend much more to get Johnson, whereas Felton will be a little bit cheaper to go get. Now, this isn't going to be similar to most lists, but my number 1 receiver ad right now is Marquez Callaway, 34%. I think it was worth 10 to 12% of your FAAB. Most are going to recommend and recognize the 3 guys I have below Callaway. But let me make my case for this guy. 4 catches for 85 yards and 2 scores the last time out. Yeah, about half of those yards and a score came on a Hail Mary right before the end of the first half. But that's kind of what this team does. They love slinging it deep. Jameis attempted his most pass attempts of the year, over 30. We'll talk about Jameis as an ad in a little bit. But also the neutral script. It was by far their fastest pace and most pass-happy script. And Callaway, with MT a couple weeks away, and I think this guy's going to continue to milk this. He does not want to play this year. I think this is going to shape up. Callaway's starting to come out of his shell. He's had 2 great weeks. Great, obviously a little bit of an oversell, but compared to what he was doing at the beginning of the year, much more productive. He's starting to be able to handle that number 1 attention. Remember that hype storm he was getting every single day, making highlight plays, putting up 150 and 2 TDs and a half of action. Like, that ability is still there. He's had a murderer's row of defensive matchups to start the year. Now he gets Seattle, 6th most points allowed, Tampa Bay, 3rd most points allowed, Atlanta, 2nd most points allowed, and Tennessee, the most points allowed. All bottom 10 defenses across his next 4, which I imagine NT misses. So it's as much of a bet on his number 1 receiving role in the Saints offense as it is the schedule too. Huge streamability. I think this guy's going to go on a tear for this next 4-week stretch until MT's back. And I think even when MT's back, there's going to be a little bit of usability here with MT now commanding the number 1 corners. He might even shake free for a bit more. I'm just kind of banking on the Saints unleashing Jameis a bit, especially if Taysom Hill lingers. But if you want a little bit more like upside and uncertainty and that'll make you tingle a little bit, Rashod Bateman, only 27% rostered. He's also worth about 10 to 12% FAAB. I think most experts would recommend him above Callaway. I'm intrigued by Callaway's rest of season outlook, or at least these next 4 weeks. But Bateman as a whole season-long stash could be very intriguing. He ran a route on 67% of the dropbacks, and he led the team in wide receiver targets with 6. He saw more targets than Hollywood Brown. The box score isn't anything sexy, 4 for 29, but 22% target share in the first game when he wasn't going to be tossed into the fire by Greg Roman. That's heavy involvement right there. 17.1 routes per game out of the slot. It could be intriguing here. He ran 61% of his routes from the slot in 2020. He also has tons of experience out at the boundary. In 2019, he was an 87% boundary guy. He's played both. You can move him all over the place. So even if Watkins returns, I think we'll see a lot of Bateman action here. Very intriguing player profile. Showed no issues with draw. I mean, he just looked like you could get open pretty easily. Showed strong hands, some contested grabs. Brings a new element to this offense. Still think Hollywood's very viable, but very intrigued by Bateman. Also, Darnell Mooney, maybe, again, for many people, might be the top of the 3 receivers I just talked about. I don't want to bank on Justin Fields, whose season high for passing was, like 150 yards so far. I don't want to bank on that too much, but Mooney has seen 28% target share under Fields across these 4 starts. He has a 16 and a 15-point day on his resume in his last 3 games, 1 dud mixed in there. And now he gets Tampa Bay, one of the leakiest secondaries. Again, as we were just talking about, 4th most points, a league high 41.8 pass attempts because teams are always trailing. I am intrigued by Darnell Mooney being this de facto number 1. It seems pretty clear he's the go-to guy over Allen Robinson. Maybe that flips at some point, again, adding to the risk of Mooney. I think of the 3 guys we talked about, I'm most concerned with Mooney just disappearing on any given week because of he's tied again to a Justin Fields offense. But I love the target share. I love the production so far. An intriguing ad worth about 8 to 10% of your budget. Another 8 to 10% guy for me, it would be even higher. He might be even my number 1 receiver ad if it wasn't for a quad injury. That's T.Y. Hilton, 39% rostered, comes right back, and it's like he never missed time. 4 catches, 80 yards, playing the majority of snaps here. It was just the way he was flying down the field, getting up, jacked up, like I am back, and I am so pumped to be here, because there was reports he was mulling retirement and things of that nature. He did not look like a guy that's ready to step off the field. Fired up, getting deep, showing a good rapport with Carson Wentz, kind of relegating Michael Pittman back to the number 2 in this offense. I don't think that's going to happen routinely. Only 3 targets for Michael Pittman. That was, I think, a fluke. I hope a fluke. But if it wasn't, that's just great news for T.Y. Hilton. I think a quality wide receiver 3 flex depending on the matchups. And the good news is the matchups are looking juicy. San Fran coming up. Nobody of note in the secondary. Then Tennessee, as we already mentioned, 1st most points to receivers. The Jets are somehow limiting receivers to the 30th most points. So 3rd hardest matchup for teams. I don't buy it. I don't see why. They have no corners. I don't get that. Jacksonville, 18th. He could burn that team with regularity. Buffalo, tough matchup, but also then Tampa Bay and Houston. So of his next 7 games heading into the bye, there is oodles of juicy matchups here for T.Y. Hilton during bye week hell. So check him on out if you're wide receiver needy. Just track that quad injury as well. Ricky Seals-Jones, if you need a tight end, doesn't get much better than this. 29% rostered. I think he's worth a nice 10% or so of your budget. 58 yards and a score. More importantly, 100% of the team's offensive snaps. He's now played 141 of 142 snaps since Logan Thomas went out. He's ran around on 83 of Heineke's 93 dropbacks. That's well over 80%, near 90% to be honest, right there. And an 18.7% target share, 7.5 targets per game. Very high quality usage, consistent, steady role for a guy out there in so many. I'd rather play him than Tunyon. I mean, there's tons of tight ends that are well over 50% rostered right now that Ricky Seals-Jones should be playing in your fantasy lineup over. So by far the number 1 tight end on your waiver wires at this point. Now, if I didn't need that immediate plug-in, let's say McKissick's gone, you don't really need D'Ernest Johnson. I think Stevenson might be the best pickup at running back. We've been talking about him as stash for every single week on the show, and we suddenly see only 11% rostered, say worth 8 to 10% of your budget, gets a nice touchdown this last week. But what's more important, quietly ran more routes than Bolden, 9 to 8, saw 14.2% target share, the most a running back has seen since James White went down in week 4. Could he become like a big James White? Very, very viable value if that's the case. And in that sense, if I don't need D'Ernest Johnson, if McKissick's not there, Stevenson would be my longer tail running back play because again, immediate usability, not so hot. I do think, Harris, unless he's ruled out, if he's ruled out, and that's what the other upside is, he did suffer a leg injury in the fourth quarter. If he's ruled out, this is a Jets matchup. I mean, that would be a top 15 spot in bye week hell here for Rhamondre Stevenson. So great stash appeal, intriguing role in the receiving game right now. Definitely somebody I want to roster and see what he does moving forward. Felton, I covered earlier, my number 9 guy. Very intriguing. Should he be the next Kareem Hunt until Hunt is back? Would be a very viable role, very valuable role as a guy that's also going to see some slot snaps. Very explosive so far in that receiving game. Had that 50-yard touchdown just in week 2. Was so juicy. Just a player that clearly has another gear. Intrigued to see what he does behind D'Ernest Johnson this Thursday. Then we got Rashaad Penny, the Seattle backfield, coming in at 10 and 11 for me. Penny apparently is raring to go. Has turned the corner, no restrictions. Remember, Pete Carroll was also saying Chris Carson was just about ready to come back, and a day later he's on the IR. So I'll believe nothing that comes out of Mr. Sunshine's mouth there, Pete Carroll. That being said, Alex Collins, he's been the de facto workhorse, 66% of the backfield touches since week 5, saw over 20 looks this past week. He's now dealing with a hip and glute injury. We don't know what the extent of that is. We'll have to track practice reports throughout the week. It is tricky because they play Monday night, so there's no guarantee if you want to hold out for Collins or either of these backs. And we won't know if Penny's going to be activated ahead of time until Monday. So there's a lot of risk here given that Monday night status. If you can, roster Marquez, kind of wait it out for these guys in your flex, even better, although I'd probably rather play Marquez than any of them. But DJ Dallas also heavily involved in the receiving game. 5 catches this past week. So he's already been involved. If Penny's not activated, if Collins remains out, Dallas would become a de facto workhorse. So also well worth rostering. But of course, Penny is the former first-round pick. We've seen glimpses, very, very brief glimpses, I should reiterate, of some real juice, some real speed, some big playmaking ability. Let's see the guy also make it before a game before we splurge too much on him. But definitely a backfield, even with Geno Smith at quarterback, that's still worth investing in off the waiver wires. If you need a QB, I don't think there's anyone better out there than Tua right now. 18% rostered, 3 to 4% of your FAAB because just quarterback is such a pretty deep position. Still, 329 yards, 2 scores in his first game back. What I love to see is 2 things. 1, 47 total pass attempts. I mean, no restrictions clearly for this guy coming off the IR. More importantly, though, 37 of these passes came in a neutral game script when they were either up or tied. So they were just airing this thing out for Tua. 6 of them also went downfield of over 20 or more yards. And now he gets Atlanta, the 3rd most points allowed to QBs, the worst defense in creating pressure, 34% pressure rate right now. He got 3.5 carries in his 2 full starts for Tua. A little bit of Konami juice, not a lot, but something. I think he is among the best streams within my top 10 quarterbacks above Tannehill, above multiple guys this week facing Atlanta. And if you're desperate for a QB streamer, there's nowhere else I'd rather look than Tua. We also have that Jarret Patterson guy we talked about. If we already covered him, but if Collins, Herbert, I think this could be that version of that. He's facing the same defense Herbert ran wild against with Green Bay. Should we see Antonio Gibson miss this time? And imagine, we wouldn't be shocked at all if Gibson goes on the IR in a lost season, let the guy get 3 games. Well, Patterson would become, if that happens, if Gibson went to the IR, I'd say Patterson would be the number 2 pickup this week, right behind his only backfield mate, JD McKissic. So definitely a guy I'm looking to stash if I have the space to see how this situation unfolds. Could see him having a big week against Green Bay and a week where we're desperate for streamers. That could be a nice play. Khalil Herbert was last week's. Jameis Winston, if you miss out on Tua and he was dropped given the bye week woes of last week, I think Winston's the next guy up in my quarterback rankings as a streamer. Season high, as we mentioned when we talked about Callaway, 30 pass attempts last week, pass play rate at 61%, neutral game script. Definitely encouraging signs for him. And then Taysom Hill, pending availability off those concussions. Very intriguing. We just saw a monster game, 279 yards and 4 touchdowns for Winston as a team kind of takes off the shackles, lets him air it out. Seems like we have Sean Payton ready to have some fun this year. Now that he's let Winston so slow training wheels to begin the year, but very, very steady moving forward. The last guy on my list is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was the 15th guy last week, and he's still here. Now, last year he was at 3% roster. Now he's at 22%. Still, though, 7 targets or more in 3 straight weeks. Granted, the first 2 weeks, were 13 or more points. Last week, just 5 catches for 26 yards, but heavily involved. That's in PPR leagues, fairly usable. And Jared Goff did mention we want him more involved. He's done a great job, said Goff. Our job is to get him more involved. He's a guy that doesn't look like a rookie as a rookie. He stepped up. He's a guy that 4 or 5 years from now, I expect to be in the top of the league from guys in the slot or even outside that makes plays and see those things you'd love to do. He compared him to Cooper Kupp in the preseason. We're seeing what Kupp is doing. So some decent stat lines these past few weeks. This last week, he had 26 yards on 7 catches, only 5.2 yards per reception. Pretty disappointing, but the volume is what you want to chase, what you want to see here. And he's getting that in bundles for a team that's going to constantly be playing from behind. Just to mention a couple stashes, saw Trey Lance get dropped in a ton of leagues. It makes sense. Bye week woes. The guy's probably not going to be the starter, at least for the next few weeks coming out of the bye. You imagine that's going to be Garoppolo's practicing, and Trey Lance isn't even practicing. He's not healthy. Still think if you have the space, one of the most elite stashes you could possibly have. That playoff schedule, I'm going to keep reiterating it. Tennessee, Atlanta, Cincy the week before that. Just a joke. Houston, week 16. Lance is going to run all over these guys. He had the 3rd most yards among a quarterback rushing already this year in his first start. He was looking at a 20-point day. If he could have just punched in that one goal line plunge, would have been a top 10 quarterback had he done that. Was still the quarterback 15 and a pretty abysmal performance. That's what we're looking at with this guy. It's silent like Jalen Hurts has been all year. Doesn't look great and still gets you some quality fantasy stats. So make sure to check your waiver wire. Well worth the stash if he's out there, as is Michael Gallup. They have the bye this week, the Cowboys do. You can stash him in your IR if you have those spots. I've seen him dropped in a ton of leagues, and I could get why. I mean, when he comes back, he's going to be behind CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. Now Dalton Schultz has emerged. And then you also have Zeke Elliott and Pollard commanding big target shares. So going to be a low-volume role, but all it takes is one injury to these guys for Michael Gallup to have a key role in one of the fastest-paced offenses in the league, one of the pass-happiest attacks, but the 2nd most pass yards per game right now. Michael Gallup, well worth it. Just any piece of an explosive offense like that is worth rostering, especially when they have quite that talent level of Michael Gallup, who's going to be among the best wide receiver free agents coming up this year. Alrighty, guys, that's all I have for waiver wire. Let's now get on into it. Looks like 30 questions, so we're going to go hit that. Bag, baby. Let's get on into this. And again, get your questions in. What up, Giuseppe? My guy, great to see you, brother. What's up, David Campanile? Great to see you, man. Wolf, Denny, what's good? And a reminder, guys, that thumbs up does help us get out to more people. Please consider sharing it, helping grow the pack. It would be so appreciated. So thanks again, guys, for being here. Nate the Great, should I trade Gibson and Mixon for Fournette and Henderson? Ooh, I'd say Mixon's the best player of this deal, but Gibson might just be trash. Whereas Fournette and Henderson, 2 of the best value picks you could have made. If you can get Sony to have that handcuff with it, I think I like this one, Nate. It's always tough giving up the name value there, but name value is just what it sounds like, name value. Whereas Henderson and Fournette are right in there. The same, I'd say if you rank these players the rest of the season, it would go Mixon, then Henderson, Fournette. Gibson would be 4th on that list rest of the season. So, yeah, I think I pulled that trigger. I have Gibson. Should I drop Jamal Williams for Jarret Patterson, Dearness Johnson, Rashaad Penny, Tariq Cohen, or RSJ? Have PPR. I think that all depends, Giuseppe, on what your team needs are. If you're going to need the immediate starter, I think Dearness Johnson is the top option here. If it's more for like a handcuff benefit, it's Jarret Patterson, of course. And then if it's in terms of just sheer upside, I would probably say Rashaad Penny, but I ranked them as you heard through the show. Dearness, especially as a 1-week plug-in. Otherwise, Patterson's probably going to come cheaper and make a little more sense for your team needs. Noto, what's up? Best longer-term stash? Is it R. Stevenson, Tyson Williams, Browns RBs? They're not long-term, so I agree with that. So if you're looking at long-term tail, I think Stevenson, as we mentioned on the show, one of the better options for sure. They get the target share, the highest any running back for the Pats has seen since James White got knocked out. That's very intriguing. This big body back that can also get it done in the red zone. Harris continues to rack up these little dings. To me, it's Stevenson. I don't want to touch the Ravens. I'm okay with that. Gainwell will be my second option after Stevenson, but give me Stevenson first. Campanile, you have Knox and Hawkinson at TE. Shop either for RSJ? Nah. Those 2 are studs. You don't need the tight end, so don't waste on it. Saw a stat where Tony was only on the field for 5 plays and had 3. Yep, that's what I said it right at the top there, Cody. It was insane. So if and when he comes back, I think he is the alpha, but I think Shepard has clearly shown he's going to always have a role no matter what. Not wasting any FAAB at all this week. Yeah, if you don't have the needs, if you don't need to plug anyone in, I absolutely agree 25. Look for – this is great advice, right? What guys in bye week crunches are going to be dropped. McKissic was one of those guys these last couple weeks out there in a ton of leagues. Smart owners should already have him out there on their team. So I'm with you. This is a pretty gross – I said that at the top. Like a week, I'm not looking to spend a number 1 waiver priority or a ton of my FAAB. Unless I'm in desperation win now mode, Dearness could be I think he's going to be in my top 12 running backs this week. So as a 1 week stopgap, or again, if McKissic's out there, I do think some of these receivers have some long tail upside 25. So I'd consider them, but I'm with you. This is a pretty gross week. And it does seem we alternate like hideous week, very solid week. So this time next year or next week in week 8, we might be talking about a great crop of talent. We'll see. Full PPR, Phantom Pitts. RSJ for either of them. David, no. You got good tight ends. No need to go crazy. I loved RSJ, but not over those guys. Need a receiver. Would you drop Collins for Marquez or TY? I wish I knew his status because if he's healthy, he's the workhorse, right? I'd rather drop somebody else. If it's one or the other, though, I'd go Callaway over TY right now just because we don't know what TY's quad is. What up, Bus? Let's go. Good to see you, man. Najee on bye. CMC hurt. Carter, Mitchell, Dylan on my bench. Rolling with them, 25. That's a situation. If you can get Johnson or Felton for cheap, maybe you go after it. Stevenson, again, a little bit long-term upside. But, yeah, that's ugly. What would you bet on Herbert, even though they're going up against the Bucs? That's the rub there, right? You got 1 week. It's also against one of the best run Ds in the league, Red Coco. I wouldn't be going too crazy. Maybe 12%. That might even be too high, to be honest. Allen Robinson droppable? Hate cut him. The only reason to hold him is could he get traded before the trade deadline? Because if he's stuck on the Bears, there's going to be no value, in my opinion. I do think, when I recommended hate cutting him this weekend, I got a lot of trade him, package him up, right? Who the hell is trying to trade for Allen Robinson right now? Nobody I know of. So good luck trying to sell him. But I would absolutely rather have Waddle than Allen Robinson, David. Ruggs, I don't know. Probably not, but Waddle, yes. Felton's more long-term. Yeah, I would say Felton over Johnson just because he'll be the receiving back with Chubb back. I do want to continue to emphasize, though, Johnson is a capable receiver. He, again, is the all-time leader in running back receptions and running back yardage in the passing game at USF. So it's not like he's this slouch, this fat plotter that can't catch the ball. He can. So it wouldn't be shocking if Johnson has a monster week this week and they're just like, all right, you're the new Hunt. Kind of fits that red zone role. So it seems like it should be Felton, but I can't. You want to caution that because there is some receiving upside to Dearness. Gibson doesn't play. Who would you start? Happy PR, Mitchell or Sanders? I kind of like Mitchell. I mean, 82% of the running back volume last time out? He's Shanahan's guy right now, and Shanahan's guy is always going to have some upside. So I'd prefer Mitchell myself. Or start whoever I would start Eli Mitchell over any of these guys that drop. I don't hate Sanders, though, I should say, against a bad Raiders rush D that's going to have a touchdown every single week to backs other than the Broncos. I don't hate him, but I do prefer Mitchell. Hold Knox all this time for Andrew's bye week. Oh, no. I think you play it out, Robert. Knox has been too damn good. Who do they face in week 8? Who do both of these guys face in week 8? And also, what if Logan Thomas is back by week 8? There's no guarantee either of these guys are starting by then. I would hold it out with Knox. But I don't know the matchups, obviously, in week 8 to help out too much. Trey Sermon a drop at this point? Yeah, I think so, Michael Schneider. Especially if you need the bench space. If you have it, hold him, but plenty of guys to stash ahead of him for sure. Trade Sutton, Hunter Renfrow for Ridley. Yeah, I would probably do that, Drew. That's a solid buy low. Good chance Sutton, as he's been all year, is more productive than Ridley, but that's a bet on some real good talent on an offense that seems to start clicking these last couple of weeks before the bye. I could see Ridley get cooking down the stretch here. So, yeah, I like that deal for you, Drew. Mahomes or Stafford? It's got to be Mahomes facing, Tennessee this week? Oh, God. They're going to bomb that team. So, yeah, it's Mahomes for me. Stevenson or Gainwell? I think, Denny, I prefer Stevenson. As, again, just to reiterate, 14% target share, the most since James White went down. Gainwell just is going to be too up or down. You're an Eagles fan. You've seen this. You think there's going to be any steadiness there? Only if it's a Sanders injury. And it seems like Harris has more susceptibility to go down at this point. Okay, Paso Lobo. What up, Thomas? Great to see you. You're the man. So my running back 1, D. Cook, sits. My sucky RB2 is, that's pretty sucky. And I had an early waiver pick during the week and scoop both Brown to replace running back. I don't know what Brown you mean. This is a tough one to talk about. I had a hard time following you here, Thomas. But if you're looking for running back to plug in this week, Dearness Johnson, again, the top option. Felton right behind him as a streamer. I mean, hopefully if JD McKissic's there, he's the best option. He is. So McKissic, Johnson, Felton. You also have the Seahawks guys. If Collins misses time, DJ Dallas, maybe Rashaad Penny. And then, of course, Rhamondre Stevenson could be very intriguing. DJ Dallas or Freeman? I would go Dallas ahead of Freeman. I don't want – this Ravens thing's a nightmare. Aladdin. And would you drop Singletary or Michelle? Probably Singletary. What's he going to do? Michelle, at least if something happens to Henderson, would be a top 10 running back each week. Anders, what's up? Andres. Need a QB. Tight end for Dallas's bye. Wentz, Ertz. Burrow, Goddard. Both week 7. And which do you believe would have better trade value after Dak Schultz come back? I think Burrow name value definitely has more trade value. And this week, Baltimore, good defense, but I'd play him over Wentz. I like Goddard too. I mean, no Ertz there. I prefer that offense to, there's so many mouths to feed in Arizona. I like the more explosive offense, sure, with Arizona, but not when it's going to, you have so many people to keep happy there. So I like Goddard. They've targeted, the Philadelphia Eagles have tight ends at the 3rd or 4th highest rate. I can't remember off the top of my head. And now all those targets going to Goddard all day. I like that. Rank these wide receivers in Septimus. Renfro, Smith, Darnell Mooney. I don't know the matchups right now off the top of my head. Come on back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern time, and I can give you a better answer. Gun to my head without knowing the matchups, I'd probably go Devonta, then Mooney, then Renfro, but I need to know the matchups before I can give you a more confident answer. Andres, Henry, Harris, J-Rob. You're pretty loaded at running back, huh? Wilson picked up Herbert and Collins. Yeah. Spend FAAB and drop any of them replace. So, yeah, you're looking to trade. I think you definitely should look to trade there, Andres. Like, you should not waste the FAAB there. Really good depth. Matt Feeney, you have TY. Should I go pick up AJ Green or Callaway to replace Start instead? Callaway I'd have above him, but you already have him. Could you get somebody else? Like, let's see what this quad injury is. I really like TY. It's kind of a personal preference between TY and Callaway. I lean Callaway very slightly. I think TY longer term has a little bit more usability for when Mike Thomas comes back. What up, Mohammed? Great to see you. Would you trade LaVisca and Shepard for Judy? You need to upgrade receivers. Yeah, but Hubbard, I mean, who knows how long McCaffrey's going to linger? This is just like last year. Oh, he's back this week, right? Nope. No, he's on the IR instead. Oh, okay. Setback after setback after sitting at. I think Hubbard has that upside to be Mike Davis throughout the rest of the season. So I would not do that for Judy. Who knows how Judy's going to come back? And Sutton's looked so good. Like, I'd want something much more sure, especially if you're trading with the McCaffrey owner and he's desperate. I think you can definitely get more for those guys. Mixon, Ridley, or Taylor and Hollywood. I would prefer the Mixon Ridley side there. Hex. Madison droppable. I think you got to keep him. I mean, you've seen what he does. Unless you're really desperate or you think you're going to get him a later week, I think you got to hold on to him, David. Marquise Brown and Najee for Aaron Jones and Keenan Allen. I would rather have, I think, Aaron Jones and Keenan. That's pretty damn close, Austin. But yeah, I would rather see Aaron Jones and Keenan. I could see those two kind of ascending, whereas I feel like Marquise Brown's hit his peak, especially with Bateman now here. What up, Wolf? Is Allen Robinson droppable? Yes. I mean, see if you can get some trade value, but yeah, at the end of the day, I don't need him on my teams. What's happening, Walmart? Great to see you, brother. Yeah, craziness. How good is Derek fucking Henry? Holy hell, what a tractor. What an absolute fucking truck. According to the truth, a dump truck. Need a QB for Dak. You like Tua or Matt Ryan? I know, yeah, that Atlanta, I like both of them. I think Ryan's certainly safer, but I like Tua's upside against that bad Atlanta defense. Sneaky shootout narrative there. I love them both, Omar, so trust your gut, but I prefer Tua myself. Yeah, Derrick Henry, holy crap, Denny Jennings, as we were just saying. Trade Connor for McKissic. FCJR, no, because Connor's got this touchdown roll on lock. Now he gets Houston. I hate cut him earlier in the year, and I'm pretty mad at myself for doing it. Was not smart. Don't play with your emotions, folks. Matt Feeney, of course, happy to help. Myers, Lockett, or Chad Johnson. Whoa. Chad Johnson? Who's that option printing? I would go for Lockett myself. Gino's definitely sketchy. I don't know who they're each facing this week, but off the top of my head, I think I'm going to go Lockett. I think my pickup target this week is Tim Patrick and Stevenson. Yeah, I figured Patrick's gone in more leagues, but I guess not. I do think his kind of flame is going to start to fizzle out with Judy almost back, but you got probably another week of usability here. But I do really like Stevenson. And yeah, Schneider, we need to get you back on the winning ways. I don't know what's happening, man, but it's time to get that team in gear. Had Booker the last 2 weeks. Is he still worth holding on to, or drop him to pick up Shepard or Waddle? Need the flex. Yeah, I think you can cut him for Shepard or Waddle. Actually, I'd probably prefer Waddle now that I look at that. And I think you could drop either Collins. You could drop any of those three guys, Sarah. They're all kind of 1 to 2 week rentals here, whereas Waddle and Shepard are both going to be long-term fixtures. So I would be fine to drop them both. Probably Herbert first, to be honest, because we know Monty's back in like a week or two. He gets Tampa Bay this week, or Collins if he's going to be hurt. So I'd probably drop Collins, then Herbert, then Booker. I don't know. They're all in that, like, our running back. Soon enough, the pumpkin's coming. They're all going to just kind of fade. Bateman or Patrick, 1 PPR. If you need to use someone this week, Howland, it's Patrick. But otherwise, if you're just having a receiver to have a receiver, it's Bateman to the longer-term upside. Week 8, Knox plays Dolphins. Seals Jones plays Bronco. Yeah, even better matchup for Knox. The Dolphins can get destroyed all over the field. And again, neither one of them are guaranteed to be starters at week 8, so we'll see. I think Sanders is going to get the bulk of the carries. I agree. Yeah, so, yeah, I'm with you there. Need space, drop Gaskin or Singletary. Singletary first, but both of them can go kiss my ass. I don't know what that was meant for, but yeah, they both suck. Hunter Renfrow versus Eagles, Devonta Smith versus Raiders, Darnell Mooney versus Bucks. All right, thanks to you, Inceptivus, for blocking out the matchups for me. I think now that I know Mooney's got the Bucks, that's a good reminder. I forgot that. I'd go Smith, then Mooney, then Renfrow. I think that's how I said it earlier, but again, I would say that. Andres, I hope you have a great week too. You got both Browns running backs, Johnson. Oh, you already have them. Nice. Question is, do you play them both and bench Jamal? Okay, now I get your question. Thank you, Tomas. Makes more sense. Sorry, I had a hard time following that. Yeah, I'd bench Jamal. 19 snaps compared to 41 for DeAndre Swift. That's a big switch. They've been about even all year. Swift has taken this over. So yeah, I would play Johnson first. Yes. Play them both is a big risk though. But yeah, if they're both on Thursday night, that's kind of sketchy. Like I would probably keep Jamal in for Felton, but that's tough. That's tough, Tomas. You really have to start both? Who's your other running backs? Come on. CMC owner here. How should I pay? How much? You got to go get Chuba. 50%. Whatever it takes to go get him, FCJR. You got to go get him. So you know your league mates. How much are they going to bid? Just make sure you bid more. I would say 40-ish bucks, but my league, it would take 50 to go get him. My league would probably take 60 bucks. I think that's what he went for. My league's psycho. So you know what you got to pay, but you got to have him. You have to. You absolutely have to as a CMC owner. I can't believe he's still out there. Why did you have him last week, FCJR? What's happening? How is he out there? Come on. Schneider. Averaging around 118. You just have the hardest match. Yeah, tough fantasy defense. But here you go, man. You'd rather see that than a crap team. Maybe, just maybe, you'll turn it around, Schneider. I have faith in you. You're a legend. We appreciate you here every time. Wolfpack, thank you again so much for being here. Go get those waiver wires, and good luck. I hope you get the guys that you need. You can find all our content at rowstreetjournal.com. We breed and feed fantasy wolves. If you haven't already, give this a thumbs out on your way out. I appreciate that. And, of course, you can hit that sub, hit the bell so you know when we're going live Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Set those clocks. Come join us. We'll answer all your questions every single night for you. Best of luck getting the guys you need here. Should you trade Zeke and Ridley for Cook, Woods, and Lockett? Yeah. Dalvin Cook over Zeke all day. Woods and Lockett. I think so. I shouldn't have said it as clearly locked, but yeah, I think you should. And You can find this as a podcast at the Fantasy Fullback Diary. We paved your path to 2021 titles. Thanks again so much for being here, Wolfpack. At Road Street Wolf for myself. In a world full of fancy sheep, guys, be the wolf. Later.